every single woman has a place of influence in somebody's life, whether it's in their family or in their workplace, in their community, whatever.
Welcome back. Today on Smart Girl Summer, we are joined by the one and only Sophie Hudson, author, speaker, podcaster, and queen of Southern wit. We're diving into the podcasting business model. What does it look like behind the scenes? The secret for long-term success in our work, and how to know if your book idea is going to land or not. You're going to feel like you're right at the kitchen table with both of us for this one. We even talked for quite a bit at the end about a new recent movie that we saw and loved so much. Okay, let's dive in with this conversation with Sophie. Sophie, I have been fighting to get you on the show because you are a smart girl for Smart Girl Summer. You're not only a smart girl, you're a funny girl. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Allie. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you too. When people say, hey, what do you do? What do you tell them?
I tell them I have a weird little life where I write things and I record podcast episodes. And, for a long time I worked at a school. And so the writing and the podcasting was like on the side. It was like my weird, like my secret life on the internet, kind of. So for the last maybe 4 years after I left school, I just say I have a weird little creative job. And it is. It's just a weird little creative job that somehow, over time has been available to me. It's bizarre.
It's pretty great. How did you know it was time to leave your job and go into creative, your weird little career, as you say?
So I will say COVID was super instructive for me because suddenly I was home for essentially 5 months between summer break and then the time we had off for COVID. Because my job at school was working with the girls, I wasn't trying to create online classes like all the teachers were having to do. And so suddenly I got to really indulge the creative part of my life. And I was like, oh, turns out I like this. And my friend Melanie, who I've done a podcast with for a long time, suddenly we could really think about what we were going to do. We were like, oh, what is this life where we're recording episodes during the daytime? Because we would always have to record around my school schedule, which meant we record at night. We would record late afternoons, So that was helpful. But maybe the most clarifying thing was right before everybody went home for COVID, I was at a writer's retreat in California that my agent, Lisa Jackson, had put together with the people from Baker Publishing. And it was just kind of a round table. And there's something, you work with creative people, the nerdy joy that just happens in those kinds of settings. And I was kind of talking through, the first night we were there, about some of the frustrations with trying to balance school life and work life. And school had been hard for me for a couple of years. And Emily Freeman was our facilitator that weekend. And she just looked at me and she said, what would it take for you to have peace? And without even a pause, I said, I have to leave my job. And so I went back to my room that night and I called my husband and I said, I think I have to leave my job. And he said, okay, let's figure out an exit strategy. And so that was when I knew. But then when I got home, it was COVID. So it was actually weirdly confirming that, hey, this is the right thing. So I went back after COVID for a year and then that was it.
Okay. So getting all up in your business, I don't know if it's okay to get all up in your business.
Oh, you can get all up in my business. That's totally fine.
Would you say you make more from the podcast than books, or books and the podcast? How does that break down business-wise for you?
Podcast.
Okay.
Which is so bizarre to me because even when I was leaving school, my daddy just turned 93. He's remarkable. You would think he was in his late 60s, early 70s. He plays golf 3 times a week, loves to travel. He's still just in it as far as life goes. And we were at dinner one night and he said, I think I'm going to need you to explain to me how somebody makes a living off a podcast. But somehow, not to our credit, just to having smart people, who have kind of showed us the way. And I have some great friends here in Birmingham who are also podcasters. But, you kind of have different revenue streams with a podcast, whereas with a book, you just kind of have one revenue stream from the publisher. So podcast is, I mean, really kind of at this point, kind of my full-time job, because you have ad revenue, you have affiliate revenue, we have a Patreon, so we have that revenue. And so you just, you kind of build it little by little. And we've had a podcast now for almost 18 years, which is insane.
Crazy.
Which is like, we're like mammals, right? Like it was like we were hitching a wagon in the pioneer days, talking to one another over tin cans with strings attached. But it's been interesting, and it's kind of been oddly fun, even though I'm not a business person. Like, I don't typically like that. It's been fun to figure out how to build that with Melanie. That's been really fun.
That's so fun. Okay, so I think I'd like to double click on podcasts for a little bit because I know someone listening is going, okay, how does this work? So there's ads. Ads
Yes.
make sense. Affiliates. So you're
Yeah.
promoting things that you have a percentage of. But then Patreon, tell us about your Patreon. What's the model? What do you give to people to get them to stay on your Patreon? What's your strategy here?
Well, you're so kind to think that a couple of Enneagram 9s withdrawing personalities, Allie, have a strategy. That's really generous of you. We're not strategic. That's been our biggest challenge, is you have two people who are so content to go, okay, I guess it didn't work out. I've said for my whole life that if I had a shield, like with my name at the center, it would say on the shield, easily overwhelmed, quick to give up. That's the heart of who I am. So I need people to understand that this is not the result of business acumen or strategy. This is just a stubborn persistence in terms of two people who love to make other people laugh. So we're always asking ourselves, how do we lighten the load, right? So how do we give people a chance to breathe? How do we give young moms a chance to breathe? How do we give the empty nesters a chance to breathe? How do we give the grandmoms who suddenly are keeping grandbabies 3 times a week? They didn't know that was going to happen. How do we give them a chance to breathe? So because of that, it really is, for us, everything we do is based on if we'll enjoy it, our people will enjoy it. So on Patreon, we do bonus episodes about stuff and more like concentrated episodes where we might pick one thing to talk about as opposed to the regular podcast when we're kind of all over the place. Because really, our regular podcast is essentially two friends. It's like we're catching up on a phone call, even though we talk all the time. It's sort of a catch up on the week. The Patreon episodes are a little bit more of a deep dive where we might talk about a movie that's really resonated or something that we're learning that we cannot shake in our real lives. It's maybe a little bit more personal. We'll pull our kids on Patreon. Melanie's husband was on with us. So we do 2 bonus episodes a month. And then we have another level where we do a live episode. Either we alternate between a Q&A and a book club. And the book club's been super fun because I'm a former English teacher and I like nerdery. I mean, honestly, our Patreon, to our way of thinking, it's just a way to hang out. Like it's just a way for us to hang out with the people who listen and laugh. And it's really been surprising how much, even though it's extra work for us in terms of the content, it doesn't really feel like work because it's stuff that we love to talk about. You know that, like when you love people and you love relationship, the stuff where you get to kind of engage with that, it's a blast. It's a ton.
Love that. Yeah, well, I've been looking forward to this all morning. So for you and Melanie, for the weekly show,
Yeah.
how do you decide what you're going to talk about it? And like, do you guys have a Dougal doc?
Yeah,
Do you have a
we
Google
do.
Doc where you're adding ideas? How do you collaborate and then just show up?
It's interesting because for the longest time we had no doc. We had zero doc, and we would honestly just, we would connect. However, we've tried 95 different ways to connect over the years, as I'm sure you understand that. Like you use one for a while and you're like, that's not working anymore. We do have a Google Doc. We just do an episode doc every week, but I'm telling you, it is barely an outline. Like I started one for next week. Maybe yesterday. So far, we're both going to Auburn this weekend. So far, the Google Doc says Auburn. And I took my dog to the vet a couple of days ago. It'll probably say Hazel Vet. And then every week we do 5 favorites. We alternate. like 5 things for 11 and said, this next week is my time for 5 favorites. So I have my 5 favorites list. By the time we record on Monday afternoon, there may be 5 things in that outline, like 1, 2-word things. But usually, like if we know we have a story, even though we talk on the phone almost every day, we will save the story for the podcast. Like if it's a good one, we'll hold on to it. And then since we're going to be together this weekend, we'll do a whole recap about that. There's pretty much at this point, I think, a pretty good shorthand for it. We don't usually struggle for things to talk about, but it also, I think, has taken a lot of practice to get to the point where we can do that in a way that's not super structured. So it's kind of like when you go speak to groups, I don't know if this was like this for you, but when I first started speaking to groups of people, I mean, I would go in essentially with a 20-page essay typed out, like tell story about this here. And then over time, the more comfortable you get with it, now I can go in with, kind of an outline, and it's a lot looser and a lot more natural, I hope. And it's kind of been the same deal with the podcast.
I love that. I think, I love the visual that you guys are the mammas of podcasting world. I'll tell you, I bought my first podcasting mic in 2013.
Yes.
But then I never started because I told myself that it was oversaturated. There's too many podcasts. I didn't start till 2018 because of that. Amazing that y'all just did it.
Well, we would get on the phone like when Alex, our son, and Caroline, Melanie's daughter, would take naps in the afternoon. Melanie would get on the phone and we would laugh. And this was 2006-ish.
Yeah.
We were all blogging and anyway, and we would laugh. And so one day my husband, who's an early adopter of just about everything, and I am not, he said, y'all should start a podcast. And I was like, perfect. What is that? And I kind of knew, but I didn't know. So we started in 2007 and I can't believe we started in 2007. Well, the only reason we started is because it was just another way to talk. I'm convinced of it, because we didn't even tell people our last names at that point. We all had to
no, of course.
code names.
Too scary.
Yeah. The internet was just full of potential thieves and scammers, we thought, I guess.
Totally.
I don't know.
Oh, I remember the first time I wanted to buy some beads to make jewelry online. And my husband was like, you can't use a credit card number online. We're going to get robbed.
We're going to get robbed. So anyway, it's been a minute since we started.
And I think you guys are an example. You are an example of just how amazing things are when you keep going.
Yeah.
There's so much momentum. There's this snowball effect that you guys have had through the years. It wasn't we got together and we had a big strategic plan and we're going to have the biggest podcast ever. You guys have been doing this forever. You've made mistakes. You figured things out along the way.
100%.
There's so much to be said for just staying in the game.
That's it. If there's any aspect of us online, which we've all been online at this point for pretty much 20 years.
Yeah.
If there's any aspect of that I would say, hey, maybe take a little tiny note from this here. It's just the persistence. It's just, and again, it's not because of strategy. It's because it's our delight to do these things. And so it is such a source of joy. We don't ever get tired of it. We don't dread it. Like it's not a chore. This is a natural expression of who we are. So I think for us, because it feels relational to us, it is relational to us. I think that's kind of kept us going. And we've done it wrong forever. We've never promoted the podcast. If we went to a conference alley and somebody wanted, us to share our information or have some sort of like contact place online, we don't have any of that. We don't have an Instagram account for our podcast. Like we haven't done it by the quote unquote rules. Yeah. But we've done it in a way that's organic to who we are. And I think that's kept us on track too.
Well, and because you both have successful careers, if the podcast had become its own individual thing, and there's an Instagram account to run and contact and so much, then it would become more of a business that you guys have to manage instead of a natural overflow of friendship.
Yeah. And what we have both known, we have a business coach who keeps us on track, like who made us recognize, hey, you do have a business together. There is a smart way to do this, but that's it. It's the three of us. And so some people might say, well, that's really held you back. And I would say, no, it's actually given us really good guardrails for what is ours to do. because Melanie and I are not interested in managing people. We're not interested in building a staff. I don't even know what I need to do every day, much less how to give somebody else responsibilities. Like, that's just not either of our personalities. I think probably if we weren't both so similar in terms of how we interact with the world, we would probably drive each other crazy, right? Because like if one of us was a really hard charging, like a 3 on
A
the
3.
Enneagram or an 8 on the Enneagram, I mean, it would just be a constant eye roll with the two of us. But I mean, our motto really is kind of like, good enough. It's good enough. And we're both great with that. So for some people, by the way, this is horrifying. Some people are listening right now going, this sounds like the worst business plan ever.
Well, one thing I'm always telling clients, when you're creating a business, you want to create a business that you love. You want to
Yes,
create it in a way that works for you. You don't want to just give yourself another job. And what so
exactly.
many women do is they go, well, this is the way it's supposed to do.
Hmm.
I'm supposed to have a 5-year plan and I'm supposed to hire a VA within 2 months.
Right,
And then I staff up and it becomes a big thing. And then their job isn't doing the thing they love. Their
right,
job is managing the machine that they've built. And that,
right. I
if
have no
unless
interest
you
in
want
that.
to manage the machine,
I don't want to.
no, it sounds awful. So I think it's great that you guys know what you want. Very smart to hire a business coach. I'm
Yeah,
very, very happy with that because she'll keep you on your toes.
she
But
does.
yeah, it's knowing how it works for you and what would drain the life out of you.
Yeah. And management is one of those things that would drain the life out of me. I would wake up every day and I would dread whatever I had in front of me. And that's what's so fun about right now, like at this stage in my life as an empty nester, and I worked in one capacity for a long time. I love every day that I wake up. And certainly there's stuff that I have to do and need to do. That's just part of being a grown up. But it's a little bit of a color your own rainbow situation. Like, where one thing Melanie and I will do this weekend, I know, is we'll talk about what sounds fun, like what sounds like something we might want to do this summer. What sounds like, or we have a live show coming up in San Antonio in October, and so we'll be like, what sounds fun for the live show? And thankfully, our business coach produces the live shows because otherwise, it would just be a bunch of people showing up at a venue, and there may or may not be doors that are open, and lights that are on. Because again, we're not your detail people. But yeah, it's such a blast to wake up and think, what fun thing can we do next?
Mhm. I love it. I love it. So for me, whatever book I write tends to be somehow related to the past 2 years of my life
Hmm.
or 3 years. Sometimes after I write a book, I'll go, hey, I got nothing. I need to
Yeah.
go live a little, and then let's see what bubbles up. What does it
Right.
look like for you? How do you know? How do you decide?
It's my favorite part maybe of writing. Well, I also really like to edit, but I would say the idea part of writing is so much fun to me. But because there's so much like testing it out and trying to figure it out, it can also be really frustrating. I would say that's not uncommon for me. That something that I've lived kind of comes up to the surface and I end up writing about it. And it's almost always because somehow something that was sort of churning internally gets settled. And when it gets settled, I can usually look back on it and start to pick out the lessons a little bit, but I can sort of identify maybe a little bit of a narrative arc there. So that's certainly one. The I have a book idea right now that honestly I've been trying to figure out for about 9 years. So sometimes it takes a long time to figure out what something's going to be. I guess there's just a lot of intangibles when you're settling on what to write about. But I will say that once I know that it's something I'm going to commit myself to and this is what's coming next, it is a fast moving train. When you finally, and I don't know how to describe that sense of knowing like this is the thing, but once I feel that, once I know that, then it is off to the races and I get a little obsessed with it. Like I get a little like, it's all I want to do.
Well, I loved your last book so much.
Thank you.
Tell us about it and tell us what happened in your life to bring you to that place to write that book. I want to hear all
Oh,
the background.
goodness. So I had a job at school where I worked with our high school girls. And I was not a counselor. I was a little bit of a fake counselor, but really my job was discipleship. Like it was a Christian school and the girls had day-to-day stuff. Sometimes it was stuff with friends, sometimes it was stuff with, like they'd gotten in a fight with their mom that morning. They didn't like their shirt, Allie. Their shirt was terrible that day, and it was really affecting their mood. It was just a wide variety of things. But I would, a lot of friend drama, a lot of girl drama, a lot of social media drama. And so I was a little bit of a safe place / older, hopefully wiser voice to sort of, help them through that stuff. So I lived sort of immersed in the land of teenage girls for about 7 years. And I had been a teacher for, I taught English for 14 years before that. I started to really consider the whole idea of leadership in terms of what does this look like for me? I never thought of myself as a leader. What does it look like for me to lead these young women? And then that turned into what is the language that we're using in faith spaces with our young women about leadership? Well, sadly, a lot of the time, we're not using much language with our women in the church about leadership because we reserve that more a lot of times for men. And I'm not saying we don't need men to be healthy leaders. We absolutely do. But we also need for our women to be healthy leaders. Women have a lot of influence. Almost every single woman has a place of influence in somebody's life, whether it's in their family or in their workplace, in their community, whatever. So I started to think about, like, what does healthy leadership look like? And so that took me in 1,000 different directions. I kept coming back to Moses over and over and over and over. Not a perfect leader. He was a broken leader. He made, bad mistakes. He put himself in exile. Like, he disqualified himself, essentially. He couldn't get on board with what God was calling him to do. And I just kept coming back to him over and over and over and over. And so finally, I was like, I'm going to see if there's anything here. Is this supposed to be a book? Am I supposed to write about leadership? I don't think I'm the person to write about leadership. But when I sat down and I went through Exodus, like just start to finish in one sitting, what I noticed was the word see, S-E-E, pops up over and over and over again. Sometimes it's looked at, noticed, beheld, whatever. So there's this underlying message that the quality of our leadership is directly connected to the quality of our sight, how we see ourselves, how we see God, how we see other people. Do we esteem people? Do we honor them? Do we are we empathetic? Are we compassionate? Or do we minimize and dehumanize? And all of those things converged. And I was like, so I'm going to use the book of Exodus and Moses as sort of the background for a leadership book about women. Yes, it would appear that I am. And that's where that book came from. It's really just me trying to figure that out in my real life.
I love that. And I love that you tackled it. When I saw it, I was so excited. Okay, so you knew where you were going to go. You had been through Exodus. And then how did you know for sure, okay, I'm all in?
I think I'll tell you when I knew I was all in was not when I noticed the word see over and over. It was when the next day I went to Deuteronomy to read about the end of Moses' life. And the last thing scripture says about him is that his vigor was unabated after he died. His vigor was unabated and his sight was unimpaired. And I was like, oh, what we have here, we have a full circle moment. Because on the front end of his life, it's all these women who can see and who see him and see each other, his mom and his sister and Pharaoh's daughter, who preserve his life. So I knew there was a whole big full circle thing there. Also knew I had no interest in tackling the laws or the building of the tabernacle. When I looked at the first 20 chapters of Exodus, as you look at the different chapters, I was like, oh, okay. There are a lot of real life challenges in here that are super relatable if we lift them out of the Old Testament and we put them in our current day. And so I think when I got the full circle piece, and then when I got sort of all the instruction there is in the first 20 chapters, I was like, okay, I think I know what this is. And then as I started to write, my agent, Lisa, she said, I think the key is you start every chapter with a story from your life and then flip it to Moses and then flip back to your life. And so once I had that rhythm, I mean, I'm not saying it was an easy book to write, but it was a joy to write that book. It really was. Like, I had the best time. And that is I realize, just an incredibly goofy thing to say, but I had the best time writing that book.
No, that's amazing. Well, terrific book. I love that you tackled it. It's so good.
Thank you.
If someone shadowed you for a week, what would they be surprised to learn?
Oh, gosh. That I take naps. That would be one thing. I really I don't even have to sleep. I just like a rest time, kind of like kindergarten. But I really like an afternoon rest time, ideally about 2. And that can I may just watch TikToks for an hour, Or sometimes, I'll actually read a book. So they would be surprised that I like to nap. They would have to go to Pilates because that's a thing that I try to do 2 or 3 mornings a week, and that I really love to cook. I really love to cook. Even though we're empty nesters, I still get a lot of joy from cooking. So like yesterday, I made a big thing of chicken and dumplings
Mm.
and took it to people because that's one of those things that matters to me. So I think maybe they would be surprised by how much of my days don't necessarily revolve around writing or podcasting. I'm really, really mindful that I want to be a person who lives my life, who wholly lives my life. So my focus in the day to day tends to be more on living, I think, than necessarily on doing.
I love that. Well, you need to live life so you can create and
That's
be
it.
inspired and have new thoughts and new understandings.
Yeah.
If someone was just starting out and wants to do something similar to what you're doing, what advice would you have for her?
Oh, golly. I would say you have to do it because you feel like you're almost wired to do it. You feel like you were made to do it, because if you do it and you're dependent on external stuff to continue to motivate you, that's probably going to be a short-lived deal. I mean, you know that feeling. I mean, you'll just pour your whole heart and soul into writing a book. And then a month after it comes out, it's kind of like, well, that happened.
That
Like
happens.
it doesn't necessarily change your life. It's fun and it's rewarding, but like I've really had to I would even say kind of come to peace with the fact that the point of writing books for me is often because there's something in me that needs to heal.
Right.
There's something in me that has healed, but it's much more about something personal that happens than it is about the external, result of a book. So I think especially a creative life has to be rooted in the internal, because the external stuff is so unpredictable. And sometimes, like you said, you can love something that you did and it just doesn't, for whatever reason, it just doesn't land.
Yeah.
So you got to be real clear about why you're doing it. But I will say, if you know that you're wired for it, if you feel like you were made for it,
Mhm.
there's going to be so much good and so much joy that comes just from practicing what has been entrusted to you. The practice of what has been entrusted to you, I think, is always worthwhile.
Oh, that's a good word, Sophie. That's a good word. Okay, you ready for some fun questions?
Yes.
Okay. What do you take with you when you travel? What's something unusual or a little different, little special that always goes in your travel bag?
Okay. I have this, it's like a portable fan,
Mhm.
and you can wear it like on your waistband of your pants if you want to. I haven't done that, but it's also a phone charger and it's also a flashlight. So I always take it with me. I always make sure it's fully charged, because if you have dodgy air conditioning in a hotel room, you can put it
Okay.
on your nightstand and you can have a breeze like right in your face. If you need a flashlight in the middle of the night, it can also be that. And if you need a portable charger at some point, you have one. It's just a handy little thing, and it doesn't take up much room in your suitcase or your purse. I actually usually put it in my whatever I'm carrying on a plane. So I
Mhm.
have it with me.
It would be so good on a plane because now in the summer, when we get stuck in the tarmac and
Yes.
the air is stale and
And you sit there
7,000
forever.
degrees?
Mhm. Yeah. And
It's not
I have some friends who are in the throes of menopause who take a fan like this everywhere they go. At restaurants, doesn't matter. To the library, doesn't matter. Like, it's just a way to create a breeze when you need one.
Oh, I love it. Okay, what about, favorite skincare or cosmetic?
I like skincare more than makeup, but I will say this. Melanie recently told me about these new Ilia eyeshadow sticks,
Oh.
and they're called like the Ilia Stylist stick or something like
Mhm.
that. And they're great, because my thing about an eyeshadow stick is a lot of times it's kind of rough and you feel like, listen, this skin is delicate enough as it is. I don't want
Delicate.
to tug at
Mhm.
it. These Ilia sticks are really creamy and they're super pigmented. So you just need a tiny little bit on your eyelid, and then you can get your regular eyeshadow brush and blend it in. But
Mhm.
they are pigmented, they last, and they're soft. So I'm a big fan of them.
Okay, this is why I asked the question. I love that. Whenever Melanie comes on the show, I'm like, "Can we just do 30 minutes
Listen,
of recommendations?"
will you just take me through your skincare routine? Thank you.
What about a favorite guilty pleasure?
Oh gosh, I have a lot, but I mean, probably my main guilty pleasure in life, and this is terrible, is The Real Housewives. I'll watch any franchise. I don't care. I love a Real Housewives reunion. That's certainly one, and maybe my biggest, like in terms of my entertainment, is for sure Real Housewives.
I love that. What about a movie or a book or both?
Well, my husband and my son went to go see Sinners, the Michael B. Jordan movie.
It's so good.
So Alex wanted to go back with me. So I
Mhm.
went to see that with him Monday afternoon. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my
I mean
gosh.
I mean, can we say it's a masterpiece?
It's
I
a
think
masterpiece.
yeah,
And
it's a masterpiece.
I don't like things that are gory. I don't like things that are
Same.
bloody. But what
Same.
this movie did, what Ryan Coogler did in this movie was he built a world for me. He
Yep.
built characters for me where I was so in it, it didn't matter. Like I was going to stick with it till the bitter end. And I'll say this about Sinners, and I was telling a friend of mine this last night. Yeah, I grew up in Mississippi. I've lived in Alabama at this point for 25 years. Like, I'm going to sound like this the rest of my life. But when I go in a movie and the Southern accents are bad, I get so disconnected from the story that I can barely sit through it. The Southern accents in Sinners are on point,
Yep.
but it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Man,
It is
just
so
full of
good.
layers and meaning and depth.
I mean, the way that the 2 brothers were, like, rolling temptation across the countryside, I mean,
Yes.
there
Yes.
there's a depth to it.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
100%. It's so good.
This has been so fun. Tell everyone where they can find you.
I missed the day, Allie, in social media class where everything's supposed to match. So really just I'll say Instagram. Just find me on Instagram. It's Big Mama 205. I couldn't get Sophie Hudson. Somebody else already had it. I don't know. Life's hard.
The
But that's
audacity.
the best place. And then Melanie and I have a podcast called The Big Boo Cast, and it's anywhere you like to listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been great. Thank you for being a member of the Smart Girls Summer Squad.
Thanks for having me. I love being with you.
How great is she, right? She is absolutely amazing, and she is definitely a smart girl. Now, so are you, because you're here. You're investing in yourself in the Smart Girl series. Sophie talked about leadership. Leadership takes women who invest in ourselves, in our knowledge and our wisdom and our understanding and our creativity. It's like Sophie was so wise. She was so smart and self aware to go, I don't want to deal in the business. I don't want to mess with that. I know what I want, and this works for me. You heard me talk about, where people get themselves in trouble building a machine that then they have to spend all of their time driving the machine as opposed to doing what they want to do. This is important for you for, say, the next few years of your life. Make sure when you make decisions, you're making decisions based on how God created you and what you actually want. You have permission to do that. And let me remind you again, you're stronger than you think, you're smarter than you give yourself credit for, and you're braver than you feel in the hard moments. And the best part, you're just getting started. You're capable of incredible things because the Spirit of God lives in you. The dreams that are there in your heart, they're not there by accident. God placed them there, and He's going to give you everything you need to live them out. It's my joy to get to coach you, to cheer you on, and remind you that with God, you have what it takes. So keep stepping up, keep showing up, and loving well, because you know the truth. You can't break a woman who gets her strength from God. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, here we go.